and to Madam Sharifah. In today's video presentation, our group will present on an article review on generational differences in workplace. So without further ado, I will proceed to the first presenter.
Assalamualaikum and hello everyone. My name is Hazwani Husna binti Hanafi. I am going to present the introductions of the generational differences in the workplace. So, first of all, what are generational gap? In the workplace, the generational gap can be defined as the differences in behavior and viewpoint between groups of people who were born at different times. The generation gap is more than just the age between adults and children. It is described as a barrier separating the ideologies of various generations. Every generation holds different perspectives, ideas, and skills. There are 5 generations which consist of baby boomers, millennials, Generation X, Generation Z, and the silent generations. More liberal fiscal tendencies. Older generations may prefer traditional communication, whereas Gen Z is heavily tech-dependent and comfortable using social media. Generally, the generational gap is a problem in the workplace these days. It can cause a lot of conflict between employees from different generations when at work. Working closely with baby boomers, Gen X, and millennials sometimes be challenging. Their disagreements have the potential to reduce engagement and productivity. According to new research, tensions are not the primary source of conflict between employees of various generations, but they are commonly blamed by them. As more people choose to work later in life, employees with an age gap of 40 years or more may find themselves working closely together. We all notice differences between younger and older coworkers right away, such as how they dress, utilize technology, and communicate. People who are decades apart frequently find that their attitudes toward work and appropriate behavior change, partly due to the era in which they grew up.
Hi everyone, my name is Rachelia Hanamatau, and I will explain about the first issue, which are generational differences and the shifting workplace. The article talks about the rise of millennials taking leadership role. We know that generational differences are creating some of the largest disruption in our workplace. There are currently members of up to 5 generations working side by side in many companies. For instance, the age of employees range from baby boomers, who were born between 1946 and 1964, to members of Generation Z, who are recently graduated from college and are just entering job. It has been proven that the transition of employees from the millennial generation into leadership roles and the entry of members of Gen Z into the workforce are two of the most significant factors driving shift away from traditional approaches of leadership, learning, and the culture of the workplace. It is essential for all 5 generations to have an understanding of the specific viewpoints and requirements of each generation in order to maximize the potential of a company's most important asset, which is its workforce. It is possible that conflict between different generations could get much worse, which would have made communication even more difficult. Moving an intergenerational workplace online presents a number of challenges, including an over-reliance on generational labor in guiding interaction, negative perception of a technology usage of particular age groups, and biased perspective regarding the willingness of different age groups to change. The probability absence of intergenerational connection that might come from this will lead to a breakdown in the transmission of information, as well as workplaces that are less efficient and productive. The second issue is generational differences and COVID-19. The article that we found talk about interaction in virtual workplace. The focus is more on the intergenerational gaps and the current future, which is pandemic COVID-19 situation. According to the Center of Disease Control 2020, intergenerational conflicts may become more intensified as a result of COVID-19 outbreak, which prompt many firms all over the world to transition to online or virtual workplace. This shift may result in communication failure. Throughout the COVID-19 crisis, the following are few intergenerational issues that organizations were dealing with. They are concentrating their effort first and foremost on generational designation and identities. Intergenerational relationship will be categorized by conflict if other identities such as generational groups are more prominent than an overarching organizational or group identity. The conflict with modern technology is another topic. When one generational group perceives another to be either not skilled with or overusing technology, stereotypes and biases will be used when interacting with colleagues via technology or about issues related to technology. For example, when a baby boomer believes that a millennial use less technology, the baby boomer will use the stereotype that millennials are outdated. When generational prejudice or preconception are allowed to guide interaction more than emphasis on the uniqueness of the person, individuals who fit the stereotype will be less eager to collaborate with members of other age groups or to operate in an online work environment. Not to say anything about the exchange of knowledge, knowledge transfer will not take place when individuals are not motivated to interact or work with others of different age groups. Older workers are often perceived to not be as comfortable utilizing technology to communicate and engage in work tasks. Despite the absence of empirical evidence on whether this is a measurable differences or not, this is because younger age groups are perceived to be more comfortable using technology to communicate and engage in work tasks. This results to unfavorable preconception as well as failure in communication between generations, which in turn decrease motivation to connect and work with co-workers who are different in age group. Studies have demonstrated that there is a connection between how one feels about one's identity and the circumstances around a crisis. As a result, age group stereotypes have the potential to become more prevalent and pervasive during an event such as COVID-19 pandemic. This is due to the fact that people rely on assumptions about identity rather than knowledge of the person with whom they engage. A reduction in the transfer of information is another effect that it has. This will most certainly result in a reduction in the overall performance of the company. When people of a younger age assume that those of older generation are unwilling to attempt new things or learn new way of functioning, this can lead to tension between the two generations. As a result, the stereotype that may have emerged as a result of this perspective is that older generations are unable to adjust to crisis situations very effectively. In a similar vein, people tend to get the impression that younger generations are lacking in experience. Other than that, if the organization is going to be able to persevere through periods of change and disaster, knowledge transfer needs to take place. When there are people from varying ages working together, there is a greater possibility that they will be able to teach one another new things. And in order to construct in groups and out-group, individuals draw on a variety of social identity. And they get the impression that members of the in-group share qualities that are important to them, but members of the out-group seem entirely unique. Instead of focusing on the individuality of different generations, managers of companies need to make an effort to unite their companies under a single banner as the company advances into new terrain.
Good morning to everyone and to Madam Sharifah. My name is DYLON, ANAK GOYANG, and I'm going to present on why should we embrace generational differences in the workplace. As we all know, there's a lot of type of a generation that can be found in an organization, whether it is in the public sector or in the private sector, because there are 5 generation that can be found in the workplace. There are the silent generation, the baby boomers, generation X, generation Y, and also the generation Z, which are born between 1996 and 2012. Okay, so first of all is the silent generation, which refers to people that were born between somewhere between 1925 and 1945. Okay, the reason behind why they are called the silent generation is because of their history. Back in the day, children were expected to be seen rather than heard, which means they must do exactly as they were told and be good without any complaining whatsoever. Even if we are really hear any issue of this generation in the workplace, which makes sense given by their age, they mostly contribute some of these characteristics. First of all, they are hardworking individuals. They practically show this characteristic in the workplace because they think of their work as their privilege, and they are known for their strong work ethic. This is probably since this generation grew up during the Great Depression and also the World War II. That may be the reason why they take it so seriously when it comes to their job. This generation also are loyal and respectful towards the authority and the higher up. They often stayed with the same employer throughout the years and their entire careers. At the same time, they implies on this generation, people from this cohort learn that respect, authority, and also value conformity. Okay. Second is on the baby boomers. This is the most familiar generation today because they are quite the strict generation. Okay. This generation refers to people who were born between 1946 and 1964. So this generation are those who followed the silent generation. Some of the characteristics in this generation are common in the silent generation. Their common characteristics are they are goal-oriented type of individual. This is due to the fact that this generation had more opportunities than the previous generation, which is the silent generation, because this generation are more exposed to education and finances, which makes them more achievement-oriented and also career-focused individual. Baby boomers generation valued relationship. This is probably due to the fact that while growing up, this generation used to make phone calls and write letters to each other to strengthening their interpersonal skills to themselves. Okay. Next is Generation X. Generation X is people who were born between 1965 and 1980. This generation can be considered smaller compared to the previous generation, which is the silent generation and also the baby boomers. This generation tend to be more towards the diverse and better educated environment. They are more flexible compared to the other. Generation X saw their parents suffer during the economically tough times during the 80s, which is one of the reasons why they are less committed to a single employer and adapt very well to any changes that might occur in the workplace. They also have the individualistic in them. Generation X grew up in a time where two-income families where both of their parents are on the rise, or to be more specific, they are financially capable. In this generation, women are started to join the workforce, and at the time they create a generation that are called latchkey kids. Okay, as a result, those Generation X can be considered independent, self-sufficient, and resourceful during that era. Generation Y, on the other hand, may outnumber Generation X as the largest percentage of the workforce. It goes without saying that this generation still has the undeniable impact across the global workforce and also in today's workforce. Next generation is on Generation Y. This generation are people that were born in the early 80s and the mid 90s. This generation are often referred to as millennial, which is currently the highest and the largest cohort in the workplace, which is comprising 35% of all employees in an organization. The reason why they are the largest cohort in the organization is because they value collaboration and also teamwork. Okay. Meanwhile, their predecessor can be either an individualistic or competitive, such as the silent generation and also the baby boomers, right? Generation Y, on the other hand, value collaboration and teamwork the most. This is probably due to the fact that they are more independent and more towards teamwork rather than doing it alone. As for this generation, salary isn't everything, okay? Not all the millennials think of salary as their number one priority. They are more focused on the employees' benefits, perks, their personal development opportunities, and also the right job for them. Last but not least is Generation Z. This generation are people who were born between 1994 or 1996 to 2012. This is the youngest generation among the 5 generations. This generation also known as the I generation or the digital native. There are few characteristics on this generation Z. This generation are the one that are most exposed to the digital and IT. They don't face any difficulty when it comes to digital or any technological uses, whether it is using the latest app that is used by the company, the new technology, or the new platform that is used by the company. If there are any emergency cases, for instance, when COVID-19 hits, this generation are the one that uses technologies and introduce them to the others as a online platform to do their job at home during the COVID-19. So that's why this generation are called I generation or the digital native. So that is all from me. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Valera Anak Gombe. So now I will present to you what is the pros of generational differences in workplace. There isn't as much of a question as to whether or not you will have a workforce that spans many generations. The issue that has to be answered is whether or not you are willing to collaborate with the other people in your workplace to make the most of the positive and minimize the negative of the situation. To accomplish any of these goals, each of us will need to have a heightened awareness of the possible advantages as well as the advantages of generational disparities in the workplace. By doing so, we will be able to identify them for what they really are and be prepared to deal with them when they ultimately make their presence known. Thus, there are a few pros of a multi-generational workforce that we want to discuss. Firstly, studies have shown that diverse teams, including teams with members from different generations, have a higher collective intelligence. Companies that really value diversity in their workforce take into account not just factors like nationality, cultural identity, and gender, but also age when making hiring decisions. People who come from groups that span many generations may actually be able to influence the behavior of a group's social majority in ways that lead to enhanced and more accurate collective thinking. Greater generational differences may also impact how whole teams process the information necessary to make the most effective decision. When it comes to making decisions, the researcher believe that multi-generational teams may do better because they absorb, take in information more thoughtfully. Other than that, one of the most significant benefits brought about the interaction of different generations in the workplace is the increased possibility of knowledge sharing. Younger generations may share their enthusiasm for innovation, their technological expertise, and their shared energy with older generations, while older generations can give their wealth of practical knowledge that they have gathered through years of working in the same field. Take the time to evaluate your workplace and start examining the features of every generation that is a part of your team, the different cultural norms and identities of your employees, and the potential strengths and conflict which might occur when these values and cultures come with each other at work. This will allow you to create an environment in which this transmission can grow. Besides that, teams comprised of members from various generations encourage the exchange of diverse points of view and best practices. As a result of their lengthy careers, experienced workers have amassed a huge reservoir of information and expertise which makes them incredibly useful to the company. In particular, they are able to play a significant role in the professional advancement of younger employees by imparting vital information and experience that, on average, take years to acquire. This includes the capacity to have a strong commercial expertise and the ability to build effective business management practices. There is also a growing trend of reverse mentoring, which implies that more experienced workers are being matched with and guided by younger employees on topics pertaining to technologies, media platforms, and recent trends. When employees spend more time talking to one another in the workplace, they are better able to comprehend and get inspiration from one another's observations, point of view, and concepts. Last but not least, having a unique relationship in the organization is one of the pros of multi-generational teams. It is possible for employees' emotional needs to be met and for job happiness to be increased by developing meaningful connections with their co-workers. The presence of people of varying age inside the organizations stimulates the structure of a family and creates the possibility of developing meaningful relationships with members of generations other than one's own. Baby boomers and members of Generation X, for instance, bring in a culture of work ethic, cooperation, and quality, and they have a great deal of valuable skills to educate members of Generation Z and Generation Millennial. They may teach valuable lessons in group interaction, motivation, empathy, and relationships development, as well as serve as mentors for the next generation of workers by sharing their knowledge of the business and insider tips. In a nutshell, increasing the proportion of members of different generations in your staff pool is one of the most important things you can do to increase the combined intellectual capacity of your organization. Your efforts to make the workplace more diverse will assist in keeping the prejudice of your team's members in check and will prompt them to challenge their preconceptions. At the same time, we need to make certain that the organization has processes that are inclusive in order to give everyone the impression that they can be heard. Whatever your objective may be, all of this has the potential to make your team smarter, which in turn will make your business more successful. So that's all from me. I will pass to the next presenter.
Hello everyone, my name is Hazwani Husna binti Hanafi. I will continue these presentations by explaining the cons of generational differences in the workplace. Generational workplace disparities can provide instinct issues for both employers and employees. Conflict is unavoidable because each generation has its own set of values, ethics, and habits. Workplace conflict is frequently caused by generational disparities. This can generate division within your personnel, affect the recruitment of new employees, and reduce motivations and productivity. According to SHRM, problems can occur as a result of differences in communication style, working style, expectation in company culture, and negative stereotypes. Firstly, one of the cons of generational differences in the workplace is communication style. There are many differences in communication style between the older and younger generation, which is a fairly prevalent issue among several generations. There are numerous ways to contact staff, including email and instant messaging. Many younger employees will prefer online communication methods such as instant messenger or video chat, whereas older workers prefer email and face-to-face communication. The issue emerged here is among several generations because they want things to be quick and instant rather than extending them utilizing traditional methods. These disparities might lead to misunderstanding and disagreements in communications among employees. Next, working style is also one of the downsides of the generational differences at the workplace. There can be a big difference in how different generations choose to work and when it comes to accomplishing employment tasks. Baby boomers and Gen X are accustomed to extended work days in the office, whereas Gen Y and Gen Z seek flexible hours and remote employment. This is a significant shift in working style. At the same time, older workers are frequently content to jump right into an assignment, while younger workers desire group work and daily feedback. Individuals are more likely to feel motivated to perform well if they have some control over their work environment. Moreover, the con of generational differences at the workplace are expectations in company culture. Each generation brings its own set of values to work. Generational values are influenced by a variety of factors, including economic downturns. Different generations value different things. They all communicate differently and prefer different team configurations. Baby boomers, for example, place a high emphasis on individualism. They value perseverance and the desire for material prosperity. As a result, they have made a commitment to work long hours. Last but not least, negative stereotyping also can be disadvantage of these generational differences in the workplace. Workplace stereotypes are prevalent. As with all forms of diversity, people have negative preconceptions about those in a different range. Does any of these phrases sound familiar to you? Baby boomers are incapable of using modern technology. These broad generalizations create negative perceptions that may contribute to poisonous workplace culture and unequal treatment. That's all from me, and I will pass to the next presenter, which is Adelina Imas.
Hello, my name is Adelina Imas Anak Lawrence. I will be a next presenter for solutions. Nowadays, organizations frequently hire employees from 4 different generations, and it is no shock that each generation seems to have its own goals, unique style, threat, and needs for employers to recognize. While managing a multi-generational workforce has its challenges, and there are few solutions that managers can take to overcome generational diversity in the workforce. First solution is adjust organization's recruitment method, as managers must be able to hire employees from different generations if wish to gain from generational differences. The managers need to use age discriminatory formulas with cautions in their employment adverts. As a managers, they need to post the job vacancies on a variety of platforms depending on how easily you can reach out to potential candidates. Consider reaching out to baby boomers through the referral or link, as well as Generation Z through online interactive advertisement. Second, avoiding stereotype and assumptions age-based. Avoiding making stereotyping or assumptions age-based to get the most out of your generational differences team. Rather have a conversations with each other of the staff to discover their unique preferences and working habits. And according to a recent survey, individuals over 55 are less likely than their younger peers to find using technology in the workplace stressful. Third, find out what employees desire by listening to them. Rather than assuming things about the needs of employees based on their age, try and listen to each one and discover what they want. This will enhance employee engagements by improving communications and allowing you to work together more efficiently. Fourth, make the organization strategy unique to each employee. Each employee is a unique individual with distinct interests, objectives, skill, weakness, and communication style. Instead of making generalizations and treating others the same, each employee should be treated individually. Improve workplace relationship and happier employees will result from customizing the strategy and customizing the style to each individual. Lastly, gather age-diverse project teams. As a manager, you can utilize the uniqueness of each generation while also going to encourage team mates to work collaboratively and develop relationship with each other by forming age-diverse project teams. Related to possible differences in disagreement and opinions, 89% of Australian employees prefer working with people of different age. Hello, it's me again, Adelina Imas Anak Lawrence. I will be a next presenter for suggestions and recommendations. There are few recommendations that can help facilitate interactions between different generations. Firstly, Transformational leaderships will include the following, which is effectively communicating online and leveraging the organization's chosen technology platform to set an example, such as emphasizing the importance of online collaborations for survival, empathizing with others' concerns about the challenges they face when collaborating online, and providing employees with training and coaching and opportunities to seek out best practice knowledge in order to help them. Next, the three-step model developed by Kurt Lewin. First, in order to unfreeze the situations, they need to communicate why moving online is necessary to survival in order to change the attitudes of resistors. Next, they need to identify champions who are able to advocate for age-diverse colleagues for this challenge. And finally, they need to seek input from organizational members at all levels on how to go about this change and provide resources such as training and access to technology, as well as emotional support, feedback, and informations that to enable the change. To really accomplish this three level, they should communicate policies for how work is to be done from home, such as addressing process technology and communications requirements in order to establish commitment, formally close down non-essential physical workplace so that the staff will unlearn past way of working and not lapse back into the whole habits, processes, and means of communications, and give additional assistance to help people transition to working remotely. Third method is having a well-defined objective will make it easier to launch the transformations process. The applications of traditional model of motivations, such as the goal-setting theory, might be beneficial in these situations. To begin, it is necessary to articulate the goals in such a way that they are detailed enough to be grasped. Second, the objective you set for yourself should be demanding without appearing to be unattainable. This will ensure that you are always growing and improving. And the third is managers need to be able to give feedback to their team so that the members who are actively working toward their goals are aware of how well they are progressing. The people of organizations who will be actively engaged with the goals need to be on board with them before they can become a reality. Fourth recommendation is maintain a constant and level of communications. Training and professional growth are obviously also very important factor to consider. It is probably most critical. Acting out of empathy will assist to enable health intergenerational connections in companies that have been touched by COVID-19. The majority of workers, regardless of age, are terrified and have trouble adjusting to the new environment. They might probably benefit from a little more considerations from the leaders of the organizations. Lastly, improve your company retention rates. Employees' retention is a top goal for every company, as the number of people quitting their positions is at an all-time high. Starting with succession planning, generations should collaborate to maximize mobility and growth.
As a conclusion, when more than one generation interact with one another, generational differences will emerge. Generational differences in the workplace can manifest themselves in the way people think, act, and behave. Furthermore, for effective and productive teams, departments, and organizations, understanding and valuing different generations is very important and very crucial. Traditionalists, baby boomers, Generation X, Generation Y, millennials, or Generation Z are the 5 generations that represented in the workplace in today's world. These generations have a wide range of experiences and a whole lot of other perspective, right? Because people are now speaking from a place of respect, acknowledgement, which will lead to improved communication and also collaboration between each other. People are more likely to invest in time and energy in their projects and jobs when they feel heard, understood, and valued. So they are more likely to stay at an organization when they feel heard, understood, and valued. To be effective, every organization requires members from various generations. Therefore, it is important to remember that learning can and should be reciprocal, whereby younger generation can benefit from the lesson and knowledge from the older generation. For example, Generation Z can learn from the baby boomers or the Generation X. Meanwhile, in today's society, because we use a lot of technology, social media, so baby boomers might need to learn a few what we call a few knowledge or a few lessons from Generation Z or Generation Y or millennials, right? So they can help each other, and thus it will boost and also it will create a good environment in the workplace. So as a manager, the more you understand but just how your team member might be react in a different situation and what obstacle you might face in getting them to work together effectively as a team members, is to support them and to manage them very well. There's a risk in depending too heavily on slotting people into handy categories. Many generalizations, however, contain some truth and understanding on what to expect from team members of different generations, which will help you prepare for your situation that may arise between team members and also be able to identify their potential conflicts before they occur. Okay. That is all from us. Thank you and have a great day.